things got spicy. Hello, friends. Happy Friday and welcome into First Take. I'm Victoria Arlen filling in for Molly, and I'm in good company here in the Seaport with Amari Stoudemire. And we've got our friend Kendrick Perkins, who's in a little bit warmer temps in Houston. And speaking of warmer temps, Perk, let's get straight to the Celtics turning up the temperatures in Miami against the Heat. With the return of starters Marcus Smart and Al Horford, the Boston Celtics absolutely torched the Miami Heat with a 127-102 victory in front of a shell-shocked crowd, to say the least, down south. And with a 70-45 lead at halftime, that only ignited their spark. Jason Tatum scored 27 points. Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown each had 24. Smart was a rebound shy of a triple-double after adding 12 assists and 9 rebounds.
Let me say this to you. I got the Boston Celtics going to the finals.
I got them winning it all.
What?
You got to win it at all?
What?
Yeah.
You think whether it's Phoenix or Golden State or Memphis, because that was your pick, you think the Boston Celtics are beating any of those guys?
Listen, the Boston Celtics, I'm riding with them to win it all. This is not breaking news. I said it already.
Ooh, it is not breaking news. Perk, you said it. So we're going to start right there. What message did the Celtics say with this win?
You know, I think
they're the best team in back.
Go ahead, Perk.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, because I was ready to go. Go ahead.
I know Perk. That's his team. Perk played with the Celtics. You know what I'm saying? He might be a little biased, but I actually agree with Perk. I think the Celtics are a team that's well equipped in every position. I think they're well coached. I think their chemistry's great. I truly feel like the Celtics are the best team in the playoffs right now, and they do have a chance to be NBA champions.
Yeah, all right, Perk. We're all here with you.
Beantown, what's up? Beantown, what's up? Hey, look, I'm telling you right now, it's fired up in the Beantown. I'll be down there on Monday, just letting y'all know, Big Perk in the building. That's first thing first. But what we're witnessing now is we're witnessing a team that has defensive greatness written all over it. When you look at their personnel, starting with their defensive player of the year and Marcus Smart, watching him being able to guard multiple positions, being the heart and soul of their defense, and then we're watching two-way players in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Both of them guys strapping up on the wing position, and now you have that interior presence that's still versatile to go out there and switch out on pick and rolls, and Al Horford and Robert Williams. And then you add an additional guy that comes in off the bench, and Grant Williams, who's becoming the ultimate 3-and-D guy. And I'm looking at this Celtic team, and we all could talk about offense. We could talk about shot making. We could talk about them getting hot from the three-point line. But championships are won on the defensive end. And right now, what I'm witnessing from the Boston Celtics is a championship caliber defense. And whether it's the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, or the Dallas Mavericks, I don't see any one of those teams being able to get their offense off against this stellar defense and this clinic that this Boston Celtics team has displayed throughout these playoffs.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that Boston has a notorious history of bouncing back and kind of being in that underdog position. So, nonetheless, this game had a lot of folks shipping up to Boston and getting on the train for Boston to win it all. But for Miami, who is the most important player for the Heat to bounce back, and can they do it? Amari, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think Bam Adebayo is the most important player at this moment. That he needs to assert himself in this game, right? And there's a lot of ways he can do that, right? If he establishes his position in the post-up area, being able to catch the ball in spaces where he can be most effective, efficiently, is important for him. He does a lot. Defensively, you guard 1 through 5. He rebounding the ball well. He's doing those small intangible things in the basketball court, but we need him to be more assertive offensively. We need him to have a 30-point game. We need this to happen because if P.J. Tucker doesn't play, then now you're another man down on the Miami Heat roster, and you need Bam to step up big time in Game 2.
What about you, Perk?
Well, you know what, Amari, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, and not the fact that you were making valid points, but I just don't see how Bam could even make his imprint or put his imprint on this game, dealing with how the Celtics have this versatility on the defensive side of things. Just think, They just went through Giannis Antetokounmpo, the most dominant player in the league. They guarded and basically clamped up Kevin Durant, who's arguably one of the greatest scorers to ever touch the basketball. So when I'm looking at this Miami Heat team, I got to look at a guy by the name of Tyler Hero. Where's Tyler Hero? At the beginning of the season, Tyler Hero said, hey, when you mention Luka Doncic, when you mention Trae Young, you need to start mentioning my name and put my name in the conversation. Well, guess what? No Kyle Lowry, no P.J. Tucker probably for Game 3. Guess what? The stage is set. You're going against a guy, Jason Tatum, that's around your age, superstar status, and now you have a time to elevate your game and rise to the occasion. I think Tyler Hero is the biggest key. If you go back and look 2 years ago in the bubble, it was him, Jimmy Butler. Yeah, Bam had some good games throughout their series on the defensive side of things, but Tyler Hero was the X factor. And in these 2 games, he hasn't really put his imprint on it. And I just don't know if he can, but I think he's the X factor. And I think Eric Spoelstra got to take the handcuffs off a little bit. 24 minutes, 11 shots. He can't really have them doing that predictable offense. He got to let these guys ride because having that predictable offense is not gonna allow the Heat to be able to score on this Boston Celtics team, especially in the half-court set.
I mean, my question to that is like Tyler Hero, right? Where's his focus? You know what I'm saying? He wants to wear the shades. He wants to have his back out in the
gun
press
show,
conferences. He wants to do the gun show.
Yeah.
He wants all this entertainment stuff. But where's the focus on basketball, right? After the bubble, he had a great run in the bubble, but then ever since then, he was like, hey, where's the hero? You know what I'm saying? But Bam Adebayo's a guy who has the potential to be a perennial all-star. He has the potential to be a top defensive player in this league, and he has to take that step. In order to become a great player, regular season, okay, you become a star regular season. But in the playoffs, you become a superstar. You make your name known worldwide. You become a high commodity basketball player. And for the Miami Heat to get to the next step, to get to the finals, they need the cornerstone of Bam Adebayo to be that guy to help them get there. And I just don't see it happening. He needs to try to figure that part out and speak with the coaching staff and the development staff, watch some film, and figure out where are the areas on the court where he can be assertive and try to change the game in a positive way.
Well, and I think, too, the playoffs are where, not to tag on to hero, but playoffs are where heroes are made. Essentially, that's where the superstars come out to light. Now, we got to move from the East Coast to the West Coast. The Golden State Warriors dominated speaking of heroes, with a 112-87 win over the Dallas Mavericks in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals on Wednesday, shutting down Mavs superstar Luka Doncic, who finished with 20 points on 6 of 18 shooting, and it was the third lowest career scoring playoff game for Doncic and was just the third time out of 24 to score more than 20 points. Now, Andrew Wiggins was the hero who was tasked with defending Luka Doncic, and defended him he did. All 5 of Doncic's contested shots, he had one breakaway dunk for his 6th field goal, came against Wiggins, but Wiggins held Luka to 5 of 11 shooting. Wiggins also forced Doncic into 3 turnovers. Now, with that being said, do we believe that the Warriors will run away with the series? Perk, I'm going to start with you.
Hell no. I think this series is going 7. I have the Warriors picked to win in 7. But look, let me explain something to everybody, right? We saw what happened last night with the Boston Celtics, right? Being able to regroup, get their personnel back. When teams go through Game 7s, like the Dallas Mavericks did, right? And they have a quick turnaround. And you have a Golden State Warrior team that's been waiting on them, that's been able to get rest, that's been able to put a game plan together. All of a sudden, they come out and they punch you in the mouth. Look, I was a part of a 2018 where we went through a crucial Game 7 with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then we had a quick turnaround against the Detroit Pistons against Chauncey Billups and Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace. In Game 1, they punched us in the mouth because we wasn't ready. So, look, now that the Mavericks have an opportunity and Luka Doncic have an opportunity to go back and watch film, to see what the Warriors are doing to him, to make the necessary adjustments, they're going to come out and it's going to be a different Dallas Maverick team tonight. And this series is not over. It's just getting started, and it's going 7 games, and I expect Luka to go back to being the Luka that we seen last series and not in Game 1.
Heard it from the big man. What about you, Amar?
Yeah. I mean, Perk has a very good point. I do think, Dallas is going to definitely watch film. They're going to recoup. They're going to look at areas where they can improve. They're going to find out, ways to get Luka more involved. And Luka's going to watch film. He's going to dissect the defensive strategy that the Warriors are putting on him, and he's going to figure out a way to be assertive. I don't think it's going to go 7. I think Warriors are going to beat them.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think the Warriors are going to beat them in 6 because it comes down to the most conditioned team.
Yep.
And you got to guard the Warriors on the defensive end. These guys are moving nonstop. The ball is always moving. There's no time to rest, and they also out, on fast break with up-tempo style of play. And if the Mavericks are not in great shape, by the time the second half come around, the Warriors are just going to stretch out their lead further and further. It's going to be hard for them to keep up, for Dallas to keep up with the Warriors.
Well, you know what? I think the Dallas Mavericks go out and get this game. I think they get this game. I think Jason Kidd is going to get into his bag way at the bottom, like he got fries at the bottom. I think he's going to come out with a game plan. I think he's going to put guys in position to be successful. Look, Jalen Brunson didn't shoot the ball well. Hell, the Dallas Mavericks as a whole didn't shoot the ball well. And they actually had some good looks from the three-point line. I'm telling you, Luka Doncic is one of those guys that he loved adversity. We saw him. He has proven us wrong time and time again. I know he's proven me wrong. I bet against the Mavs, and I said I was taking the Jazz in the first round. I said I was taking the Suns against the Mavs in the second round. Luka Doncic is just one of those dudes. Jason Kidd warned me. I was sitting courtside. We was in Boston. It was during the regular season. He said, I'm going to tell you something, Perk. This kid right here is special, the best in the league, and he's really about that life. I think this series is going 7. I think it's far away from being over, and even with that said, none of these teams are beating the Boston Celtics.
No, none of them are. And I think there is something to be said for having that kind of underdog mentality for Luka to show up. Now, aside from your fries quote, because I'm always looking for the bottom of the bag and the fries too, before we let you go, Amari, Big Perk was pretty intense, and plenty of players took notice, including our own Amari Stoudemire, who said on Perk back in 2009, and I quote, "He's always mean, always mad. He never have fun out there. He needs to learn how to have fun on the basketball court and just enjoy his life, enjoy the game." Are we enjoying ourselves, gentlemen?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm having a blast being on set with you and also with Perk. This is a lot of fun for me. And Perk was a great player. This guy's a champion. He was always intense in the game of basketball, which is you need that focus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm definitely having a lot of fun.
All right, well, thanks for hanging with us, Amari. And Perk, stick around.
Well, excuse me, Amari. I did not notice. I did not even know that you said that about me. Listen, excuse me for not being blessed and having the physical gifts to dunk on everybody every single game. Excuse me for not having the franchise talent. Look, I had to be mean. That was my identity, right? I had to go out there. Either. Look, if I was gonna be nice, I was gonna be without a job. So I had to be an enforcer, especially when I went against you. I couldn't just let you come in and do what you had to do, man. It just wasn't going to happen.
No doubt. All right. Thank you, Amari. Perk, stick around. We have to move on to college football because Alabama coach Nick Saban singled out Texas A&M ranked signing class and threw a spotlight on the unintended effect of name, image, and likeness rights on recruiting during an event with local business leaders on Wednesday.
We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. Yeah. So it's tough.
It's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. And it's ridiculous. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. You coach with people like Bobby Bowden and learn how to do things. You coach with other people and learn how not to do things. There's a reason people don't go, I ain't went back and worked for him with opportunities.
Coach back behind the lights.
Don't be associated with it.
Woo! Oh, Nick Saban later went on SiriusXM and expressed regret for singling out any specific program or coach, but stood by his issue with how NIL is impacting the sport. Now, we've got college football senior writer Pete Thamel and college football analyst Sam Acho joining in on the conversation. But, Pete, I'm going to start with you. What is the significance of this interaction?
Well, I think there's dual significance, Victoria. I think the spectacle of this has overtaken the sport in the way that I've never seen in the middle of May. I mean, we're sitting here in one of the deadest times of college football, and the entire sport is abuzz. And I think the second part is it was a subtle call out to the NCAA to enforce rules. NCAA enforcement has been impotent, bordering on dead for the past 5 years. And I think Nick Saban is saying, hey, we need rules, we need regulation, we need some stuff happening here. And it was a Molotov cocktail to Indianapolis.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, Pete, it sounds a lot to me like, no, it sounds like he mad. In college, I played at Texas. I had a teammate named Shockey Brown, who would always look at a dude and be like, hey, look, he mad, look, he mad. Nick Saban is mad. Nick Saban is upset that he's not leading, that he's behind. He's upset that he's behind when it comes to this new name, image, and likeness, right? Before, Nick Saban was the guy who led all recruits. He brought all the major recruits, everyone from Alabama, from Florida, from Texas, from California. They would all go play for Nick Saban. Now, all of a sudden, players are making different decisions. They're deciding to go, whether maybe stay at home, maybe switch schools, maybe they are taking a larger amount when it comes to NIL, and they're leaving Alabama. Notice, Nick Saban's not just mad about NIL. He also was a little bit upset about the transfer portal. He touched on that in this conversation, and he's touched on it before. And so he's upset, he's frustrated, and he's taken out some of his frustration on, let's not forget, one of the teams that beat his team last year, which was Texas A&M. Remember the Seth Small field goal. And so I see a frustration from Nick Saban. I see him being upset. Notice what he said. He said, we are second. A&M was first. He said A&M bought all their players, and we didn't, right? That to me sounds like upset, frustration, and he's a little bit perturbed that he's just not at an advantage. That's what I see when I listen to this conversation.
A little salty with that.
Sam,
that's my word of the day today. Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
Sam, I agree, and I think Texas A&M really mishandled this. In a lot of ways, Nick Saban was complimenting them, and instead of Texas A&M beating their chest and saying, we've built a better mousetrap, catch up to us, they went straight Real Housewives. And I mean, Paul Feinbaum said yesterday on his show that Jimbo Fisher used the word despicable 15 times. 15 times he used the word despicable. I mean, it was purely leading with emotion. And then Ross Bjork, the AD at Texas A&M, doubled down after his coach. And he basically said that the emperor was mad. And I just think it's a really interesting moment for A&M here. They have it's a little bit like Texas early in the Mac Brown era, Sam, when they had all those top-ranked recruiting classes and the results hadn't happened yet. These guys went 8-4 last year. They haven't won a conference championship since 1998, back in the Big 12. They haven't even reached the SEC title game yet. So I do think the scoreboard this year and beyond is going to amplify the pettiness. Maybe it shows A&M catches up. Maybe Alabama shows how far of a distance there still is in their dynasty.
Well, Pete, I actually loved it. You said that A&M direct response. I love the way that A&M and Jimbo Fisher responded. I wish it was a 20-minute interview. I wish the reporters and interviewers would have let him speak because he was going all the way in. Jimbo Fisher made they weren't specific accusations. They were more blanket accusations about Nick Saban and the way that he had been doing business, right? Rumors, stuff that hasn't been proven, but stuff that Nick Saban did under the table to try and get some of these top recruits that people didn't talk about. That's when Alabama had this major advantage. Now all of a sudden things have gone from under the table to over the table, and there is this saltiness, there is this pettiness, and I love to see it, as crazy as it sounds. I was watching the videos of him, Nick Saban, Deion Sanders, all of it. I was watching all of it, Travis, all of it, because there's, like, in college football, there's a sense of hatred. There really is. Like, when college football fans see another team, they are taught, born and bred to hate that team and love theirs. They do see Nick Saban as an emperor and as a czar. And so what Jimbo Fisher has continually said, even in that interview, he said, I'm not going anywhere. I beat you last year. I will continue to beat you, and I'm not going anywhere. We had 7 5-star recruits this year. Maybe we're just doing things better than you are. And so you can be as mad and upset as you want. But the thing I won't let us pass by is this. In that interview that Nick Saban had, in the conversation when he was talking to the business leaders, Nick Saban also asked them in a sideways way for money. He said, hey, we're behind them. Can y'all help me out? That's pretty much what he was saying. And so it's not a one-sided conversation, nor is it a one-sided argument. Nick Saban's just a little bit upset that he's not ahead of A&M.
Would you say he feels threatened by these rules?
I don't think Nick Saban necessarily feels threatened, Sam. I just feel like Nick Saban feels like there should be some clarity. And I wrote a column on ESPN.com today that just basically said, this shows there are no rules. And this just is, this is college sports in 2022. It is a lawless world. There are no rules. And it's great. I mean, I agree with Sam. Like, this was a peek into what all these people really feel like. We so rarely get to see these coaches on the record say what they actually think and feel. And it was just an unbelievable prism to view how. That's what Jimbo Fisher says when he's calling his high school buddies and, you know, he's going drinking beer with them. That's the kind of stuff he says. Except he said it out loud in the press conference.
And even better, Pete. So there was a question that was asked. They said, hey, well, Jimbo, will you respond to Nick Saban? He called you, said, no, we're done. Jimbo Fisher said, we are done. And that's what you don't see. People, like when people watch college football, you see the coaches shake hands. It seems like they're all cordial. You don't like A&M is going to use this as fuel for their fire, not only in the SEC West, but in October when they play Alabama. They're going to use this as fuel for their entire program. This is like, there's a sense of like fuel to the fire, yes, but this is what people believe. They believe that Nick Saban, he's either been lying or cheating or something, and now it's been exposed, and now all of a sudden you're getting caught, or at least we're catching up to you, we're catching up, so now you can't be mad just because we've caught up to you.
Well, speaking of fire, Pete, you said earlier in our production meeting that Saban started a, quote, forest fire, so what action does the NCAA need to take?
Well, if you look back, and especially through the federal college basketball investigation and ensuing scandal, the NCAA has shown their hand. They're really not capable of very much enforcement right now. And so I actually think we're at this weird precipice in college sports right now where we're going to see some kind of seismic change. We're going to see either football pull away from the NCAA, or we're going to see the conferences take the lead and maybe super conferences form. Part of it is the NCAA can't enforce the rules. The NCAA runs championships. They do a great job with the NCAA tournament, but they've proven they can do little else. And so I really think we may look back at this famous Thursday, the Real Housewives of the SEC Thursday, as a moment in time where we start to the fissures of the sport have been exposed in some senses, and the NCAA has proven time and again that they're incapable of handling it.
What I think should be done primarily does not have to do with players. I think it has to do with coaches. We're making this huge fix about players getting paid. Players shouldn't be getting paid X amount of money, and collectives should be disallowed. All this is going on, and we're saying get the government involved. What we're missing is that coaches are leaving left and right and leaving their players out to dry. We saw last year Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. I'm not going anywhere. All of a sudden, a few minutes later, he's gone. Yep. We saw the same thing with so many different coaches saying, I'm going to stay, and then they leave. When a high schooler is getting recruited by a coach, he is getting recruited thinking that this is going to be the coach that is going to help him reach his dream of playing in the NFL. And then that coach gets paid X amount of dollars and just ups and leaves. Lincoln Riley's another prime example. Oklahoma. He said, I guarantee you I'm not going to LSU. And the next day he left. And no, he didn't go to LSU, but he went to USC. And so there are players on that Oklahoma roster that are like, well, dude, I came because of you, Lincoln Riley. I came because I was going to be a first-round pick or going to star, break records or whatever. And now all these coaches are leaving with no repercussions and no consequence. And it's not just the head coaches. It's assistant coaches. It's coordinators. It's all the way across the board. And so there's an issue of caring about the players. If we care about the players, something needs to be done about coaches leaving. I don't think, if we care about the players, I don't think the answer is, well, just putting a limit or a cap on how much a player should get paid. It's multifaceted.
Now, Saban came
well said.
game. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, well said, Sam. And I think what we had here is we have a $1 billion industry that was predicated on free labor for generations. And when there were windows and opportunities to take care of the players, they never were. And all of a sudden, the pressure built, and we've seen this explosion right now. And there was a black market that handled this. The black market has now come to light, and inherently, that's going to be awkward. Again, this is a $1 billion business, and the players are the talent that fuels a $1 billion business. So, of course, when everything now goes above board and there has to be guardrails, rules, regulations, etc., and they're not enforced, there's going to be chaos. It was inherent and predictable.
Well, and I think the question is, how do we control that explosion? Now, Saban came one game shy of winning the Natty. Do we see him coming back and getting the title? Or do you think this saltiness is going to keep dragging on? Pete,
well,
I'll start with you.
Bryce Young is still the quarterback at Alabama. So there's so Bryce Young is a Heisman Trophy winner, possible number 1 overall pick. So Bryce Young is still there. Will Anderson, let's not forget, Will Anderson, who a lot of people thought was better than any defensive player last year, is still playing defensive end, outside linebacker for Alabama. And so, no, Nick Saban's run and reign is not over, right? Even with all the NIL that he's talking about, all these players that aren't coming to Alabama anymore, he was still in the national championship. Even though all these players are getting paid all this money and college football is such in disarray, Alabama and Georgia were still in the national championship. Michigan was still in the college football playoff. And so for me, no, Nick Saban's run and reign isn't over, number one. And number two, we're making a huge fuss about all these players going to different schools. But I think it's more about the culture that's being built, right? We had a walk-on quarterback at one point. Stetson Bennett walked on and won a national title. Right. And so I don't think the conversation needs to be about how much players are getting paid and putting a cap or a limit on that. I think that culture, coaching, all of that matters.
What about you, Pete?
Bet against Nick Saban at your own peril. There's a lot of data clouds of internet columns predicting the end of the Alabama dynasty. So when he has the two best players in college football, arguably, like Sam said, you've got Bryce Young, and then Will Anderson may be the best defensive player that I've covered in my career. So I don't think the dip is coming anytime soon.
No, I think there's a lot to keep an eye out for. The Real Housewives of college football. That is the quote. But we have a lot more coming your way on First Take, and plenty more on Nick Saban and his comments about Jackson State, why Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter have the opportunity lines elsewhere. In addition to the strong recruiting class to Texas A&M, it was the commitment of Travis Hunter to Jackson State that caught the attention of Nick Saban, and he did not hold back.
We have a rule right now that says you cannot use name, image, and likeness to entice a player to come to your school. Hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to school. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it.
Oh, he will watch. And I know what time it is. They forget. I know who's been bringing the bag and dropping them off. I know this stuff. I'm not the one you want to play with when it comes to all of that. I'm going to talk to Coach Saban. I'm pretty sure he's trying to call him. But we need to talk publicly, not privately. What you said was public. That is not a private conversation. Let's talk publicly and let everybody hear the conversation.
Now, Travis Hunter, the number 2 ranked recruit in ESPN's 2022 class, responded on Twitter with, quote, "I got $1 million. But my mom still stay in a 3-bedroom house with 5 kids." There's a lot to unpack here, and Nick Saban, while admitting he was wrong to, quote, single out Texas A&M and Jackson State in comments he made, he said on SiriusXM Thursday he wasn't backing down on his stance that paying high school players under the guise of NIL could potentially ruin college sports. Now, Ach, I'm going to start with you. Was Saban out of line for his comments of Jackson State?
I wouldn't say he was out of line. He was just wrong. Like, he was just incorrect, right? So Jackson State did not pay, and Travis Hunter wasn't paid $1 million to go to Jackson State, right? All that is incorrect. It's totally factually wrong, right? But I think the bigger picture is that there is a player, Travis Hunter, who's a #1 overall recruit, who decided to go to a school that didn't make any sense to Nick Saban or a lot of Power 5 programs. Why would you go to an HBCU? Have you seen the facilities at them versus us? Have you seen the opportunities? Why would you go there? They don't understand that Travis Hunter might care more than just about the NIL money that he didn't get, at least not up to $1 million. I think Travis Hunter cares about being great. And who was great and who played Travis Hunter's position? Because he played DB and receiver in high school. Deion Sanders was great. Hall of Famer Deion Sanders was great. Who's going to be in your corner every single day, coaching you from start to finish, from when you're 17 to whenever you decide to go to the NFL? Deion Sanders, right? So that's one piece of why you would go to an HBCU or go to coach or play under Deion Sanders. Another piece is the culture piece of going to an HBCU, a historically black college, right? There's a culture. There's this feel like, man, I'm with my people. I like this. They get me, I get them. There's music, there's band. There's another piece of culture. And then lastly, there's this piece of taking a program that may not have been as on as big of a national platform and being the guy to take it to that next level. And I think that it takes a certain type of person or player to have the bravado, the confidence to say, I'm going to be the person that took this program from, I'm not going to say obscurity, but from a lesser level to a higher level. Deion Sanders did it by coaching. He said, I'm going to go and coach an HBCU, Jackson State, and bring the level of promotion higher. Travis Hunter's doing the same thing. He's not in it for the money, at least the temporary money. He's in it for the long term. He's going to be the guy, at least he hopes, to change the narrative, to have other players start coming to HBCUs as well. And so the reason why Nick Saban is upset is, once again, he's not getting what he wants. But I don't think he's necessarily out of line. And the reason why is that this is what Travis Hunter expects. Right? He expects this. This is what Deion Sanders expects. They don't expect to be respected when you go to an HBCU, but that's the whole point of it. You're on this platform now. You're going to get eggs thrown at you, stones thrown at you. You're going to get laughed at. You're going to get made fun of, but you're ultimately going to come out on top. And so that's why I'm glad that Jackson State, Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter are getting this national attention, national platform, because they should expect it.
Experiment is going to be one of the most fascinating in the whole sport next year. He was, all but done to go to Florida State on signing day. And I think in some ways, by calling him out, Nick Saban did Travis Hunter and Jackson State a favor. He shined a spotlight and said, hey, remember, the #1 recruit in the country is going to an HBCU. And if the Travis Hunter experiment works, others are going to follow. I can't remember a recruit's choice in all the time I've been covering the sport being as compelling and as unconventional as what Travis Hunter did. And I really think the spotlight's always going to be on Coach Prime, but now there's a player, there's a centerpiece of the program, there's an identity to the program. When you think about Jackson State, you're going to think about Travis Hunter, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds, because it could start some sort of paradigm shift.
And I would love it, Pete, personally, because a lot of people say that, well, this is just so unconventional and it doesn't make any sense. And why would he go there? But if you're a black player like Travis Hunter who says, man, and you're a DB, a wide receiver, you get to get coached by Deion Sanders, #1. #2, you get to elevate his HBCUs were developed before civil rights, when it was like, hey, black people couldn't go to college where white people went to college. So, hey, we're going to go to college. I visited HBCUs before. I didn't go to HBCU, but I've gone. This is like a real thing, right? Black players, black people couldn't go to college at white universities. There was segregation. And so all of a sudden these HBCUs are formed. And so Travis Hunter's saying, what if I could be the guy that helps level the playing field? So it's not even, yes, it's unconventional. You're right in that point. But I think we should start finding a way to wrap our minds around players aren't going to start acting in ways that make sense to 70-year-old white coaches. Let's put it that way, right? They may not do something. They may say, you know what? I rock with Deion Sanders. Why? He played my position. He's a Hall of Famer. That should be enough. Right? That should be enough. He's going to be my coach every single day. And if that's not enough, I get the chance to be the one, like you said, Pete, to elevate an entire subcategory of colleges and universities. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to get scouts going to pro days of HBCUs. Now, all of a sudden, as we've seen, HBCUs are getting more nationally televised games. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to start getting more players from HBCUs start getting drafted and not be overlooked. Now, all of a sudden, the playing field will be leveled. And so for me, I'm excited and not surprised. I am eager to see how this Travis Hunter experience works out. But last but not least, I just want to just go back to Nick Saban's point. Travis Hunter did not go to an HBCU because of money, period. He probably got offered way more by other schools. So he went to an HBCU because he wants to change the narrative and change the culture. And for that, I admire him.
I think, Sam, there has to be.
Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Sorry, Victoria. I was going to say, Sam, I think there just has to be a little bit of rewiring on how we think about recruits taking NIL money, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was like a boogeyman thing. Oh, he's getting paid. He got bought. Well, guess what? The rules allow you to get bought now. If Travis Hunter got $1 million, good for him. It should be celebrated. He's the number one recruit in the country. That is going to end up being some type of market value in that range for the number one recruit in the country. So this can't be something that we demonize. It should be something that's celebrated. Hey, this kid utilized his skill set and performed at such a level that he earned what the market is willing to give him.
Well, Nacho,
and
I want
let's
to go
not
back
forget,
to
Pete, that Bryce Young, Nick Saban was bragging a little bit saying that Bryce Young's getting 7 figures. No one's saying, man, can you believe? It just made sense because it was Alabama, right? So if you're going to Alabama and getting paid, then you're good. But if you're going somewhere else, now to Nick Saban, it's an issue.
Well, Nacho, do you think a lot of players will follow in Travis's footsteps?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I think some will. It takes he's a trailblazer. Travis Hunter's a trailblazer. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We keep on saying number 2 recruit. He's the number 1 recruit in the country, period. Go watch his highlight tape. Go look at some other rankings. He's the best player in the nation. And the best player in the nation went to an HBCU. Now, all of a sudden, everyone's feathers are ruffled. People are trying to wrap their minds around why would the best player in the nation not go to Alabama, not go to Florida State, who he was committed to, not go to USC or whatever, but he went to Jackson State. But so people are like, it doesn't make sense. Maybe he got paid all this money. But even if he did, we should be applauding him. And so do I think that more players will? Yes, because we've already seen some other recruits, 4 and 5 other 4-star recruits go to HBCU. So I think more will. And the only issue is it's a matter of time. Because once you trailblaze, I'm sure y'all seen the video of I saw it in my NBA program. There was like all these people in this field, and one guy just randomly started going up and just dancing. It's the first mover. He's the first person to go. He's dancing. And then all of a sudden, everyone's looking at him like he's crazy. And then a second person starts to dance. They call that the first follower. And once the first follower comes, that second 5-star recruit, that second number 1 overall recruit goes to an HBCU. Now all of a sudden in that video, the second, the third, the fourth, everyone started dancing. Travis Hunter is the first person that's going and just dancing, right? Deion Sanders was in the coaching rank as well. But now we've seen Eddie George go, and now he's coaching an HBCU, bringing up the level of HBCUs, other coaches as well. So yes, it will happen. More players, more black players specifically, will start going to HBCUs, but it may just take time for that first follower to come.
Well, Sam, I think this is indicative of the trend lines that could follow NIL, whereas the top programs like the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States had been clustering a majority of the top recruits. You're now going to see more recruits spread out. Jackson State is a bit of an extreme example because it's an FCS program, but the financial capital of your university and your athletic department is now going to determine more in how you marshal your resources, the caliber of recruit you get. So it's an organizational test. It's a leadership test. It's an innovation test for a lot of these schools. And if you're a place, look, Oregon did this 20 years ago. They put billboards in Times Square with Joey Harrington on them. And they utilized Nike money, and they had Lamborghini leather in their locker rooms, right? Well, now all that money that was put on these ridiculous waterfalls is going to players. This is a healthy thing. This is good. The college football will survive without receiver coaches who make $950,000 a year. They can make $400,000 a year, and then the money can go to the wide receivers. That's probably better spent.
And if anything, Pete, just to quickly respond, because no one said it yet, we should applaud A&M for bringing all their resources together and doing it legally. Notice what Jimbo Fisher said. He said, we did it the right way. We didn't break any laws. We're not doing anything illegal. We're doing it legally. And so there's no laws that were broken, right? You can talk about ethics, but even ethically, they were under the ethical rules and laws. A&M actually did it the right way. They marshaled, to your point, A&M marshaled their resources properly and earned the top recruiting class, 7 5-star recruits. Years before, the most they had was maybe 2, maybe it was 3 in the few years before. Now, all of a sudden, it's more than doubled. And so A&M, I applaud you for marshaling your resources. And I understand now why Nick Saban is salty.
We still have a lot to tackle with this. But Pete, you got one more thing real quick?
Well, I was going to say, we'll never know if it was legal or not, whoever, be it Texas A&M or be it any other school who's brought in a top recruiting class, because there's no enforcement mechanism available to tell us what's legal and what's not. So there's been no disincentivation to push the boundaries, so places are being aggressive. And it's paying off right now, and we haven't seen anything from NCAA enforcement to deter that behavior.
Well, Pete, thank you for joining us. We have a lot more to unpack here on First Take and plenty more on Nick Saban and his wild past 48 hours. Our college football.
Celtics. Tatum throws it down. What a bounce back game for Boston. Eastern Conference Finals all tied up at 1 apiece.
We know what it's going to take. We know they're coming. They're trying to come in our house and they're trying to get a win, and we got to protect home court.
The Celtics really flipped the script in Game 2. It was their largest road playoff win in the conference finals ever. Boston improved to 4-0 following a loss this postseason. They have won those games by over 17 points per contest. We've got a lot more NBA coming your way, but first, we start the hour with college football and Nick Saban, who made headlines this week. Alabama coach Nick Saban singled out Texas A&M for, quote, buying its top-ranked signing class and threw a spotlight on the unintended effect of NILs on recruiting.
We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. Yeah. So it's tough.
It's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen. And it's ridiculous. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. You coach with people like Bobby Bowden and learn how to do things. You coach with other people and learn how not to do things. There's a reason people don't go, I ain't went back and worked for him with opportunities.
Coach back behind the lights.
Don't be associated with it.
A lot to unpack there. Now, Nick Saban later went on to SiriusXM and expressed regret for singling out any specific program or coach, but stood by his issue with how NIL is impacting the sport.
I really didn't mean to single anybody out. I apologize for that, but it's the whole system, and is this a sustainable system, and is it really, good for college football? I think name, image, and likeness is good for college football. I think the focus now is getting a little bit more on how much money I can make while I'm playing and where can I make it, and I'm not sure that's really good systematically for any of us.
For more, we welcome in someone who knows Nick Saban well, Paul Feinbaum with Sam Acho. And Paul, how does this situation make Saban look?
I don't think he looks very good, Victoria, and I know that it's easy to prop him up because of his stature, and he's well deserving of that. But he got into a food fight with Jimbo Fisher, and I think in the end he walks out. He's not beaten, but certainly bloodied. And when you open the door for what Jimbo Fisher said, and people can argue whether Jimbo was right or wrong, but he was defending his program, and he got very personal. I've never heard another college football coach say the things that Jimbo Fisher said about Nick Saban. He called him a narcissist. It's funny that another college football coach would call somebody a narcissist, since most of them are. But he talked about his character. He said, ask anyone who's ever worked for him. So what is he suggesting there? That Nick Saban has poor character, that he's fraudulent, that he's a cheater? I don't know what he was suggesting, but it was fairly serious coming from someone of his standing. This isn't just some disgruntled player who left the program because he wasn't good enough. So I think there's a lot to digest there. What it really means in that arena is not very much. But what it says is that Nick Saban may not be exactly who we think he is, in spite of his one-loss record. And it also has provided the sport of college football, which has been under attack for mismanagement, great theater. Like it or not, this is WWE, WrestleMania here. You can't get away from it. And we talk about them meeting on the field on October 8th in Tuscaloosa. They're going to be in the same room the day after Memorial Day. The SEC meetings are in Destin, Florida, and the coaches sit there, get together, and they're usually jovial and they laugh, even though they try to kill each other during the season. But Jimbo Fisher, in that 9-minute press conference, said, I'm done with the guy. When asked if he had taken Nick Saban's call, he said, we're done. So, Lane Kiffin will likely be the star of SEC spring meetings, because he is the clown prince of the SEC, and he'll be trying to joke back and forth. But I don't think Jimbo Fisher will be biting. I don't think Jimbo Fisher will be laughing. And Nick Saban can offer half-hearted apologies all he wants. But this is a major brawl that is going on, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Paul, you mentioned all the things that Jimbo Fisher did say in response to Nick Saban. I think what was more telling are the things that Jimbo Fisher didn't say in response to Nick Saban. Jimbo Fisher, we said he acted in emotion. We said he was so angry and irate. But Jimbo Fisher held his tongue multiple times throughout that press conference. Even the last question that was asked, someone said, are you suggesting that Nick Saban was doing specific things illegally? And he said, and Jimbo Fisher said, well, no, I'm just making a blanket statement. You figure it out. You go do the research. You go dig. He said anyone can dig in and find it out themselves. And so what that tells me is that Jimbo Fisher has a lot of information about Nick Saban that he, for whatever reason, decided not to share. But he's saying, hey, Nick, if you want to start putting people on blast, two can play that game, and you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, and Sam, that's why I think this was a mistake for Nick Saban, and the mistake is being charitable. His apology was absurd. He said, I didn't intend to name any names. I mean, he's in front of a couple of hundred people, and he said, Texas A&M bought every player. There's nothing inadvertent about that. I mean, it's one thing to say. He could have said Texas A&M bought every player, but you know what? It's legal, and nobody would have cared, because we all know it's legal. But he called them out, and I can assure you, you can find people who have heard Nick Saban say this privately. I mean, he has been building and burning for months about this subject, because things are different. Age is a number. At 70, he's no less of a coach than he was at 60, and the championships speak for that. He's won 7 national championships, but in terms of the sport, that is different right now. And Nick Saban doesn't control it as much as he used to. And what was even more interesting, guys, the athletic director at Texas A&M, Ross Bjork, went after Saban, talking about the emperor with no clothes. This isn't just Jimbo. This is the administration at that school coming after him. And it has created a public relations nightmare for the SEC. It's created a lot of issues. And quite frankly, there's no one that can stop it because the NCAA doesn't have a president. The current president is on his way out, and he's got no more power to change anything than the three of us. And within the SEC, he was, by the way, you didn't report this, but this is breaking news. The SEC reprimanded Saban and Jimbo yesterday. Now, someone please tell me what that means. Is that a hand slap? Is that a wet noodle slap?
Yeah, we need more info there.
To combine. Yeah, combined they make $20 million, so you can fine them as much as you want. And it's not going to do any good, and they're not going to get fined for that. So these guys, you can call Jimbo Fisher out all you want, but guess who started it? Nick Saban threw the first punch.
Yeah, my question is this: I think the statement you made about these coaches combined making $20 million. We got coaches making 10 and 10, essentially. You average it out. Yet we're upset about a player going to a different school. We're upset. At least Nick Saban is upset or frustrated or confused or not happy with the fact that, and he said that he's cool with NIL, but he's not happy with the way that it's getting done because it doesn't fit in his constraints. It doesn't fit in something that he can hold and handle and do and work to his advantage. That's why at that meeting to business leaders, he said after that comment that we showed, he also said, hey, if you guys can help, essentially, he's like, I want y'all to help in so many words. And so Nick Saban understands the landscape of college football. He understands how he got his players before. He understands where it is right now, but he doesn't understand where it's going. Or at least he has an idea of where it's going, and he feels like it's getting out of his control. And because of that, he thinks that there should be some kind of legislation. And so do a lot of people in the college football landscape. But there was that statement that you made, Paul. You got two individuals, two coaches. You talked about them both being narcissists, but also, or not even them, many college coaches being narcissists, but also the fact that they're getting paid $10 million a year. Yet we're trying to legislate players. Maybe we should legislate how much coaches make. Maybe we should legislate when coaches can leave instead of Brian Kelly's situation, a Lincoln Riley situation where they promise their players, at least they tell recruits they're going to be there, and then they get offered more money elsewhere, and then they are gone. And so my only frustration is this. What we're going to see, I think, is we're going to see lawmakers and policymakers, government officials start changing laws as it relates to players and name, image, and likeness. And coaches are going to continue to get off scotch-free. They're going to get off with nothing. They're going to get off. You know it, Paul. There are so many coaches who have promised players, not even just head coaches, assistant coaches, coordinators who have promised players are going to be at a program, then all of a sudden they get offered by a different program 2 times what they were making before, and then they leave. No one sees that as a problem, but all of a sudden players are getting offered money and they're not going to your school. Now it's a problem. For me, we need to talk about the coaches getting paid, the coaches leaving programs and not keeping their promises to players, and that needs to be a part of whatever legislation is going to happen when it comes to NIL.
Yeah, Sam, Congress is not going to save this issue. The leaders of the sport want Congress to put caps. I don't think the players are going to stand for that. And you know, because it's already been suggested, players are right now just trying to make money. This was intended to give them meal money and spending money. Now it's gotten into the fact that some are making millions of dollars a year. And by the way, Nick Saban has a player, Bryce Young, who Nick Saban said last year has a 7-figure deal. And he said it to promote the program. He told a bunch of high school coaches that. As if to say, hey, come to Alabama and you'll make money. But ultimately, there's another problem down the road for college football. Players are going to not only start demanding no caps, they may start demanding the television money. That's where the billions of dollars come in. And if that day comes, Congress is not going to be able to bail them out. And I don't think, Sam, we're really far away from players demanding more as opposed to getting less.
But I don't see why that's a problem. I don't see why it's a problem for players to get paid. You got $1 billion industry that's been working off of players that are getting $0, getting no money, and programs, coaches now are getting paid, as you mentioned, 10, 11 million. You're getting coordinators getting paid $4, $5 million. You're getting position coaches getting paid $2, $3, $4, $5 million. But players aren't. And so I don't see the issue in having players get paid money for their name, their image, and their likeness. Nick Saban said in this conference, he said, hey, players have always been able to get paid. Mind you, I played college football. Yeah, sure, you could get paid at doing a job, but you have no time to do that job. You're in class for 8 hours, however many hours, 6 hours of credits, and then you go to practice for 3 hours or 2 hours and some change. Then you're in the film room for another 2 hours and some change. Then you go to the weight room for another hour and a half to 2. Study hall, sleep. You don't have time to go in and work an actual job. That's where name, image, and likeness comes in, so players can get paid and make money. And since when was it a problem for people to make money, right? If you're a player in high school, I want to go to college. Why? So I want to go play for Nick Saban. Why? So I can get drafted. Why? So I can make it play in the NFL. Why? So I can make money and take care of my family. That's not a bad thing. So now that you get a chance to get that money earlier, that's not a bad thing. Now, will it change some of your priorities? Maybe so. Maybe you'll go to the wrong school, quote unquote, and for the money, and you might not make it to the NFL. But if that's a risk you're going to take, then take the risk. You might go to the quote wrong school because the coach that said they were going to be there, they leave. And so I don't see the problem in players getting paid a couple $1 million, $100,000, whatever you want to call it. That's in football, that's in basketball, men and women's sports, right? They're the twins on TikTok who just committed to Miami. Who knows how much. These are good things for 18, 19, 20-year-old individuals who are living in a world where they can make money. I think it's great. I think there should be more of it.
We still have a lot more to discuss about this, but we have to keep moving. Keep the train moving, but still ahead on First Take. The caddy, Michael Collins, gives us all the latest on Tiger as he prepares. Woo! Things got spicy. Hello, friends. Happy Friday and welcome into First Take. I'm Victoria Arlen filling in for Molly, and I'm in good company here in the Seaport with Amari Stoudemire, and we've got our friend Kendrick Perkins, who's in a little bit warmer temps in Houston. And speaking of warmer temps, Perk, let's get straight to the Celtics turning up the temperatures in Miami against the Heat. With the return of starters Marcus Smart and Al Horford, the Boston Celtics absolutely torched the Miami Heat with a 127-102 victory in front of a shell-shocked crowd, to say the least, down south. And with a 70-45 lead at halftime, that only ignited their spark. Jason Tatum scored 27 points. Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown each had 24. Smart was a rebound shy of a triple-double after adding 12 assists and 9 rebounds.
Let me say this to you. I got the Boston Celtics going to the finals.
I got them winning it all.
What?
You got them winning it all?
What?
Yeah.
You think whether it's Phoenix or Golden State or Memphis, because that was your pick, you think the Boston Celtics are beating any of those guys?
Listen, the Boston Celtics, I'm riding with them to win it all. This is not breaking news. I said it already.
Ooh, it is not breaking news. Perk, you said it. So we're going to start right there. What message did the Celtics say with this win?
You know, I think
they're the best team in back.
Go ahead, Perk.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, because I was ready to go. Go ahead.
I mean, I know Perk. That's his team. Perk played with the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He might be a little biased, but I actually agree with Perk. You know, I think the Celtics are a team that's well equipped in every position. I think they're well coached. I think their chemistry's great. I truly feel like the Celtics are the best team in the playoffs right now, and they do have a chance to be NBA champions.
Yeah, all right, Perk. We're all here with you.
Beantown, what's up? Beantown, what's up? Hey, look, I'm telling you right now, it's fired up in the Beantown. I'll be down there on Monday, just letting y'all know, Big Perk in the building. That's first thing first. But what we're witnessing now is we're witnessing a team that has defensive greatness written all over it. When you look at their personnel, starting with their defensive player of the year and Marcus Smart, watching him being able to guard multiple positions, being the heart and soul of their defense, and then we're watching two-way players in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Both of them guys strapping up on the wing position, and now you have that interior presence that's still versatile to go out there and switch out on pick and rolls, and Al Horford and Robert Williams. And then you add an additional guy that comes in off the bench, and Grant Williams, who's becoming the ultimate 3-and-D guy. And I'm looking at this Celtic team, and we all could talk about offense. We could talk about shot making. We could talk about them getting hot from the three-point line. But championships are won on the defensive end. And right now, what I'm witnessing from the Boston Celtics is a championship caliber defense. And whether it's the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, or the Dallas Mavericks. I don't see any one of those teams being able to get their offense off against this stellar defense and this clinic that this Boston Celtics team has displayed throughout these playoffs.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that Boston has a notorious history of bouncing back and kind of being in that underdog position. So, nonetheless, this game had a lot of folks shipping up to Boston and getting on the train for Boston to win it all. But for Miami, who is the most important player for the Heat to bounce back, and can they do it? Amari, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think Bam Adebayo is the most important player at this moment. That he needs to assert himself in his game, right? And there's a lot of ways he can do that, right? If he establishes his position in the post-up area, being able to catch the ball in spaces where he can be most effective, efficiently, is important for him. He does a lot, defensively. You guard, 1 through 5. He's rebounding the ball well. He's doing those small intangible things in the basketball court, but we need him to be more assertive offensively. We need him to have a 30-point game. We need this to happen because if P.J. Tucker doesn't play, then now you're another man down on the Miami Heat roster, and you need Bam to step up big time in Game 2.
What about you, Perk?
Well, you know what, Amari, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, and not the fact that you were making valid points, but I just don't see how Bam could even make his imprint or put his imprint on this game, dealing with how the Celtics have this versatility on the defensive side of things. Just think. They just went through Giannis Antetokounmpo, the most dominant player in the league. They guarded and basically clamped up Kevin Durant, who's arguably one of the greatest scorers to ever touch the basketball. So when I'm looking at this Miami Heat team, I got to look at a guy by the name of Tyler Hero. Where's Tyler Hero? At the beginning of the season, Tyler Hero said, hey, when you mention Luka Doncic, when you mention Trae Young, you need to start mentioning my name and put my name in the conversation. Well, guess what? No Kyle Lowry, no P.J. Tucker probably for Game 3. Guess what? The stage is set. You're going against a guy, Jason Tatum, that's around your age, superstar status, and now you have a time to elevate your game and rise to the occasion. I think Tyler Hero is the biggest key. If you go back and look 2 years ago in the bubble, it was him, Jimmy Butler. Yeah, Bam had some good games throughout that series on the defensive side of things, but Tyler Hero was the X factor. And in these 2 games, he hasn't really put his imprint on it. And I just don't know if he can, but I think he's the X factor. And I think Eric Spoelstra got to take the handcuffs off a little bit. 24 minutes, 11 shots. He can't really have them doing that predictable offense. He got to let these guys ride because having that predictable offense is not gonna allow the Heat to be able to score on this Boston Celtics team, especially in the half-court set.
I mean, my question to that is like Tyler Hero, right? Where's his focus? You know what I'm saying? He wants to wear the shades. He wants to have his back out in the
gun
press
show,
conference. He wants to do the gun show. Yep. He wants all this entertainment stuff. But where's the focus on basketball, right? After the bubble, he had a great run in the bubble, but then ever since then, he was like, hey, where's the hero? You know what I'm saying? But Bam Adebayo's a guy who has the potential to be a perennial all-star. He has the potential to be a top defensive player in this league, and he has to take that step. In order to become a great player, regular season, okay, you become a star regular season. But in the playoffs, you become a superstar. You make your name known worldwide. You become a high commodity basketball player. And for the Miami Heat to get to the next step, to get to the finals, they need the cornerstone of Bam Adebayo to be that guy to help them get there. And I just don't see it happening. He needs to try to figure that part out and speak with the coaching staff and the development staff, watch some film, and figure out where are the areas on the court where he can be assertive and try to change the game in a positive way.
Well, and I think, too, the playoffs are where, not to tag on to hero, but playoffs are where heroes are made. Essentially that's where the superstars come out to light. Now, we got to move from the East Coast to the West Coast. The Golden State Warriors dominated speaking of heroes, with a 112-87 win over the Dallas Mavericks in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals on Wednesday, shutting down Mavs superstar Luka Doncic, who finished with 20 points on 6 of 18 shooting, and it was the 3rd lowest career scoring playoff game for Doncic and was just the 3rd time out of 24